Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Anna, and you're listening to Big Facts.
What's that? And it's Big Fact. What's that? And it's Big Fact. What's that? And it's Big Fact. Big ones.
Yo, what's up, everybody? This is the first episode of Big Facts, Big Ones, and I'm super excited. Big Facts is just a space that I've created to talk about culturally relevant events and things going on around the world, and also in implementing Jesus, two of my favorite things. And so today we have a special guest because we had to kick off the first Big Facts with somebody that is legit. And so we are having Mrs. Angell Howard with us today. I'm going to share a little bit about who Angell is. She is the CEO, the founder of Necessary Change Consulting, LLC, where she undergirds organizations, businesses, and leaders to create cultural and structural shifts through the critical examination of policies, practices, and procedures. Necessary Change Consulting's focus for cultural and structural shifting includes climate assessments, critical diversity and inclusion work, leadership development training, team dynamic strengthening, and personal leadership coaching. Look, Angell does it all. Let me just keep it real. Angell does it all. She's an absolutely amazing woman. And so, yeah, Angell, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome to the first episode.
Special first episode.
Oh, yeah. We had to do it right.
Awesome.
So, today we are kind of talking about all things that have kind of happened in the month of July as it relates to race, anti-racism. And you've done a lot of work with diversity and inclusion. What has been your experience just in that area?
With doing the work with organizations?
Yeah.
That not many are ready for it. I would say that's probably the biggest thing that I run across. You have people who are ready for it, but as far as the organizations and the systems themselves, they're not ready for it. And as soon as you kind of cross the line, then you're done. You're done for that moment. It's kind of like you go as far as they want you to go.
Yeah.
But I have ran across some amazing people who really, really want to see changes. But again, it has to start from the top and continue all the way through. We have amazing people that are in the mid-level and lower level that's killing it. But until upper level really recognizes that, we're going to always struggle.
How do you get organizations ready? Because I know you talked about you got to be ready for it. How do you get organizations ready for it? Because I believe that your organization or your team or anything you're part of will only go as fast or as far as your slowest person. Mm-hmm. So then how do you get people ready to really dive into this work?
I start at the top. And then I also start with the people who they are giving responsibility to, and I then advocate for them. So for me, we create a lot of these diversity teams, and a lot of times they're built from volunteers. You really don't know their capacity. You don't know what they know. You don't even know if this is something they should be doing. Half the time you find that some of those people lack cultural competence themselves, but yet they're on the committee. And so I encourage organizations to stop getting volunteers.
Right.
And we get volunteers because people don't get paid to do this stuff. So then I encourage organizations that if you can't pay them, then you need to give them a title that will go somewhere on their resume for them. You need to give them actual leadership and what's the word I want to look for? The power. You have to give them some power within the organization to do what you're asking. Don't ask me to do something for free and then you don't give me no title. You don't give me no space to do it. You don't give me any power. I'm just doing whatever you say. That's a waste of time.
Right.
That's a waste of time, and it's really just very performative.
Yeah.
So I start with the leaders. I'll be like, give me the leaders.
Right.
And when they bring me in there to do a training, where your leaders at? Mm-hmm. And if you tell me that your leaders are not going to be there, then y'all not serious, and I really don't want to do it.
Yeah. And I think even to that point, I feel like when you talk about anti-racism, diversity, inclusion, those feel like catchy words that people want to say, or even cultural competency. Everybody wants to say that they're culturally competent. Every organization wants to say, but it takes work.
It takes a lot of work.
It takes work. You got to be ready to be in the grind. You got to be ready to be challenged yourself, to be checked yourself about things that you might be doing within your organization, or you might be thinking even personally.
Listen, you got to call out your own stuff.
Yes.
I know with some of my friends, we've had conversations about like anti-blackness and where we had to check ourselves and say, we have also entertained anti-blackness here and there.
Guilty.
And so, you got to be able to call yourself out and be ready to really move forward with the information that you learn. A lot of times we take that information and then we be like, oh, that was nice. And then we keep on moving. And we do that too. So it's not just the people that's out here that's the problem. We the problem too. So yeah, it's tough. It's tough out there.
Gotta be willing to check yourself. And I love what you said about information, because I know you have a video out, and what we're going to do is we're going to post all of Angell's. If you love what she's saying, ways that you can get in contact with her through Necessary Change Consulting. She's got a YouTube channel, all these things. But you have posted a video about Juneteenth, and you talked about like you got to really not just listen to the information, but also allow for the information to change you and to move you. And so first I want to talk about this idea of Juneteenth versus July 4th, because for me, I didn't learn about Juneteenth in school. I didn't learn about it in high school. I didn't learn about it in elementary, junior high. I didn't even learn about it in college. I didn't learn about Juneteenth until maybe several years ago. So how did you kind of come into the information of Juneteenth really change your perspective about July 4th and Juneteenth in general?
So I'll agree. I didn't learn this information in high school. I didn't learn it. I really didn't even learn it in college. I learned it by hanging around people who actually cared about this stuff and the ones who loved me enough to say, yeah, Angel, you don't got that right. And so then I researched. So once I take something on and I'm trying to really understand it, especially if I'm going to talk about it again, then I go do all the research to make sure I'm saying the right words. But for me, I knew that there were systems and things that we were left out of. And so, July 4th, we all kick it on July 4th. We all did it.
Every year.
We had family reunions.
We used to have the flag shirts from Old Navy.
We used to go buy the red, white, and blue and match our kids. And we matching we literally did every piece of that. And so, I didn't know anything was wrong either. Until I started to really learn a lot more about our history, our Black history, because I went to predominantly white schools. I lived in areas that were low income, but I went to predominantly they had middle class to upper class white schools. And so no, they wouldn't teach me that. But as I learned, it really just started to touch me like, wait a minute. I can't be out here lighting a firecracker talking about, celebration. I can't be doing that. I'm not buying no red, white, and blue. No Navy suits. I'm not doing it. And so I needed to recognize what Juneteenth was and what it meant to us. And so I know one time one of my coworkers, she had wished me a happy July 4th. And I walked past and I said, oh, we don't celebrate that. And she was like, why? She said, why not? I said, because my people was cooking dinner for y'all celebrations. And she was like, and so I came back to an apology. I was like, I didn't mean to hit you like that because I love her. She's a sweet person. But it's the truth. We weren't eating. We weren't getting to eat what they were eating and partying like they were partying. It wasn't for us. And so, even the history of Lincoln. And nobody likes to talk about Abraham Lincoln.
Because we was taught in school that he freed the slaves.
Nobody likes me to talk about him. And just to know that he used freedom as a bargaining chip. He used it as a scare tactic. It was never, let's figure out how to free enslaved folks. It was, you know what? If you don't do what I want you to do, I'm going to take your slaves. That's all it was.
Using us as objects.
And they didn't do what he wanted, so he said, boom, I'm going to take them. But he didn't take them all. He took, I'm going to just take yours because you are the states that didn't listen to me. But then he gets to get all these accolades and he got a whole college, right? A whole town that really worships him when it was never about our freedom. So that's a problem. And that's how we get all this false information. And we sit out here with our red, white, and blue on talking about, yes, we were free. No, we wasn't.
We was not free at all. And I think in terms of like what you're saying, I think we have to know the truth. Like know the truth about July 4th, about Juneteenth, about Abraham Lincoln, people that we have kind of placed on platforms and worshiped as a country, or worship even specifically with Illinois, worshipped as a state to be, this founding father, this person that did so much for Black people, when you're saying that wasn't even the case. So how do we like wrestle with the truth of the past and also using that to help people move forward?
I think it's really just, folks have to embrace the good and the bad. Like, for me to tell the truth about Abraham Lincoln doesn't mean that I want to erase him. I'm still very thankful that he did it, even though it wasn't in good.
Wasn't for us.
Right. It still benefited, generations of our people. So I don't want to erase him from the history, but I want people to stop putting, rainbows and clouds around him like he did this amazing thing.
Mm-hmm.
There were some amazing people in the background that were fighting for us that aren't in one book. And so I think we just really need to learn how to take it and not think that we are spitting on everything. We're just saying, know the truth so that you can actually know what it took for people to just simply be free. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's just a big part of us being able to digest it. We're so, and I don't like using the word sensitive, but I think people who this history is not talking about necessarily, they're very sensitive and they don't want to, I love Abraham Lincoln. So you say this to me, I have to erase everything I ever believed. Right. You don't have to erase everything. You just have to regroup it. You need to put the real facts in there and stop allowing things to just be pretty.
Yeah, I think that's good. I think digesting the bad, I feel like we only want to feel good. Mm-hmm. Like we only want to feel good. We only want to think good thoughts. We only want to think good things, and we won't really talk about it much. But I feel like that's how people look at CRT stuff, critical race theory stuff. Like, oh, we don't need to deal with our history. We don't need to deal with our present. We don't need to deal with what's going on. Let's digest how far we've come, how far we're what directions we're moving. We had a black president. We did this, we did that, without really sitting and settling in the truth and the reality for a lot of black folks and other people of color.
Yeah. The one thing that I've heard a lot of people saying who have been arguing that is they're saying, why should we teach people of color that they are not going to make it because of the systems? And that's not what CRT is saying. Mm-hmm. In all truth, there's a lot of empowerment in there to say that even though these systems have been against us so long, we still been making it. And so I think that's the thing that we really have to think about. We're not teaching, I would never teach my daughter that you're not going to make it, but I need to teach her that, honey, the rooms you walk in, they're not going to see you the same way sometimes.
Right.
And so you will have a barrier here that wouldn't necessarily be for your best friend, you know what I mean, who's not black.
Yeah.
And so that's the biggest difference. But again, scare tactics. Mm-hmm. It's scare tactics. That's all it is. And so if we scare people enough, then we'll erase it. Mm-hmm. It's what's been happening for centuries.
Yep.
And so, it's terrible, the narrative that they're trying to pass about that. But it's just literally history. Mm-hmm. And even in this area, they're standing there fighting, not wanting CRT in schools. Not one school said they was going to put CRT in it.
Right.
Not one. But they did say they were going to deal with equitable issues. They were going to deal with racism. They were going to deal with those things. And to them, they heard CRT. Mm-hmm. And that's crazy.
Yeah. And I think, too, just people just don't want to take responsibility or accountability. So I think that's also what CRT would bring. Yeah. It causes people to be accountable. It causes the systems to be accountable for the way that they've treated people for centuries. Mm-hmm. And nobody wants to be accountable. Yeah. And I think, too, when people talk about race and racism, they always, especially white folks from what I've experienced, talk about it from an individual lens. Mm-hmm. And so they take it very personally when it's there's a system that has made white right, that has made you elevated over everybody else. We're not saying that you created the system. You wasn't even born when the system was created. But we are saying that the system is upheld to make you superior than everybody else.
And you're still benefiting off of it. Mm-hmm. And that's not something that you need to feel guilty for, but it's for you to understand that if you're still benefiting from it, what can I do with these benefits to help regroup the system? It's a spoken word piece that I use in some of my trainings. And what he said is, I'm not holding against you what happened in history. I'm holding against you the stupidity you just said to me.
Yeah.
And so people, they say, I wasn't racist, I wasn't this, I didn't do this, but yet you still are a part of microaggression. You're still a part of,
white privilege,
holding me back and keeping, or thinking that when I'm hired in a space, I'm there because it's an affirmative hire. So you still think these things. Yep. So don't tell me about the past when you don't even want to deal with what you're doing in the future. And so that's really hard. And I think it's this piece of, you can't argue facts, right?
Yeah.
So you really can't argue facts. So if we were to really start telling the truth about history, there is no argument out there.
Yeah.
But you can argue ambiguity all day long. Mm-hmm. So for them, even when we talk about Shacarri, and I know we're going to move to that later, but even when we talk about Shacarri, yes, it was wrong to smoke weed during the Olympics.
Absolutely.
It was wrong.
They told you not to do it and she did it.
People can fight the mess out of that because it's a fact. Where the ambiguity is the inequities of who actually gets punished for doing things like this. I can argue with ambiguity because it's not black and white. It's black and white to us who know the history. But as long as the history is hidden, I can argue all day. Nope, she should have never smoked the weed. She should have never smoked the weed, period. And that should be enough to shut us up. But come on, start digging into the system.
Yeah. Yeah, so let's talk about it. We're there with Shacarri. We're there with Shacarri. So let's talk about it. What were your thoughts about her? Because I have some thoughts about her just in terms of, even the way that she was seen, and even the way that I remember one time she was running and the person, I think the reporter, whoever was kind of covering that moment, talked about how she looked aggressive. She looked angry. She looked like she didn't want to be bothered. Like all of these narratives that were surrounding her, even before we found out that she had smoked weed.
Oh,
so
yeah.
what are your thoughts?
Oh, it's flooded in anti-blackness. It's flooded in dislike of Black joy. It's flooded in dislike of being who you are. And I think that's the biggest problem. You know, she's who she is.
Yeah.
Loud hair, you know,
long nails,
all this and that. And, you know, it makes me think about it. I remember when Cardi B came out, right? I remember watching her and being so annoyed. Like, I'm listening to her talk sometimes. And I was so annoyed. And I remember watching her and thinking, man, I would not want to be in a room listening to her talk this whole time.
Right.
But then I was sitting in a meeting with mostly white people, and I was being who I am. And I said, you know what? I'm their Cardi B. And so I had to like regroup my thought on that. You know, even though me and her are different, we're very similar in so many ways. And she's just who she is. And we shouldn't be punished for that. And I think that Shacarri is punished for being who she is. Yep. And I think she's punished for the long nails. Like, you're supposed to look a certain way to be successful to these people. And that's not how, I mean, we know FloJo. Like, this is historical.
Same way. Yeah.
Exactly. So I think it started out with anti-blackness. And then it started out with, oh, she gonna take a title. You know what I mean? And so she got attention, and it was the potential for her to be great. And that is what made them mad.
Yeah. I think too, like when you think about Shacarri next to like someone like Allison Felix, who they look very differently. Allison Felix is a wife, is a mother. Like, she, to me, is like what you're saying is like how they picture Black people need to look and put them in a box, not knowing that Black folks are not monolithic. We don't always look the same, act the same, and also don't have the same backgrounds. So when you're talking about anti-Blackness, can you explain to people that might not know, like, what is anti-Blackness and how has this played a role, not even just with Shacarri, but just how we've seen it play a role around the world?
I mean, culturally, Black people have culture. Not all folks do, but, you know, Black folks have culture. And some of those things come from our backgrounds. It comes from our, you know, our level of neighborhood that we came from. Like, there are just some things that we do that that can be thematic, but then there are some things that we do that are very different. But those things that people like to negatively deem as ghetto or deem as, you know, those are the things that we start frowning our face on. But a lot of that is cultural. A lot of the things that we do is very cultural, and it has a historical value to it. And so we, I think with white people, they created this acceptability factor for what you should be if you want to be a part of, you know, our circle or success. And everything outside of that, then nope, it's not good. And again, we've done that too. So we look at things that we deem ghetto, we look at things that we deem too loud, we look at things that we deem as, you know, not professional, and then we're against it. I think that anti-Blackness is being against Black joy. It is, for some reason, people wallow in our sorrow and trauma stories. We don't have a lot of stories being told culturally of us that are joy. And when the joy comes, people don't like. I was walking on my campus once, and the alphas were having a pie thing. So they
pie alpha.
So you pay $1, and there was about 25 Black kids over there. They were listening to hip hop, and I'm not crazy about 2021 hip hop. I am a hip hop person, but I ain't crazy about it. But I know it's their stuff. And it wasn't in 2021. It was like 2019 or something. And so I'm walking behind these 4 older white women. And me, I'm excited seeing them because that's what our quad is supposed to be. These women were disgusted. They were angry. They were frustrated. They looked at how loud these people were. You could tell how just utterly angry they were. And these are folks that work on campus.
Yikes.
So you work a job where you're supposed to be supportive of these students, but you don't like students, or you don't like Black students.
You don't like Black students, right?
So that right there, that's anti-Black. You don't like them being loud. You don't like them being happy. You don't like them playing the music that is culturally theirs. You don't like them enjoying themselves. Now, come on. Like, there's something wrong with that. And so I think it's a whole lot to anti-Blackness. Go research it if you need to, y'all. It's a whole lot to it. But those are the things that I instantly think about, is just how we really are against the things that can make us.
Yo, what's good, everybody? Thank you for tuning into my very first episode of Big Facts, where Christ and culture collide. This was just part 1 of my time with Angell Howard. And so catch us for the next Big Fact Fridays so that you can hear part 2 of what me and Angell Howard had to discuss. Go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Hit that bell button. and why not just share? Because we're spitting big facts full of truth and full of grace. See y'all next time.